धर्माच्या नावानं पृथ्वीवर माणसांचा चाललेला दंगा बघून सगळे देव वैतागले. सगळ्या धर्माच्या सगळ्या देवदेवतांची एक भली मोठी मीटिंग ठरली आणि खूप चर्चा झाल्यानंतर असं ठरलं की पृथ्वीवरच्या सगळ्या रहिवाशांना एकच अट घालायची. ती अट अशी होती की आपल्या धर्माविषयी काहीही बोलायचं असेल तर त्याआधी इतर सगळ्या धर्मांचा संपूर्ण अभ्यास करायचा आणि मगच स्वतःचं म्हणणं सांगायचं. तुम्ही न्याय आणि समता ही मूल्य खरोखर मानत असाल तर तुम्ही हे पथ्य मनापासून पाळायला पाहिजे. त्या दिवसापासून सगळ्या धर्माच्या सगळ्या देवदेवतांना शांत झोप मिळायला लागली.
Hello, everyone. I bring to you a dialogue with Sameer Shipurkar from Pune. Samir started off his career as an engineer working for telco. Soon he realized, as he says, he wasn't laughing or crying at work. He needed a more meaningful journey. He chose to become an indie filmmaker. He had grown up in the company of social reformers of Maharashtra, particularly Gapra Pradhan and Vasant Piker had inspired him. He decided to make a series of videos on their lives and their thoughts. After a while, he realized that the films he was making, the messages that he was putting out were utopian. He decided to go back to school, studied psychology, and became a counselor. Over time, helping people discover their inner world, he realized that sexuality and taboos and misunderstandings associated with it are at the root of many problems. He decided to pursue his curiosity in that direction. So here we have a dialogue with a man who went from being an engineer. He kept adding new talents, new curiosities to his life. And today, we have this inspiring dialogue with Samir. So over to Samir. So hello, Samir. It's nice to meet you. And I'm glad we had one conversation before. So that gave me an understanding of a wide canvas of questions and curiosities that you have covered through the years that you have been adding new knowledge and new pathways to your life. And that's what makes it very interesting for me to have this conversation with you.
I'm also happy to meet you, see you, and talk to you. And I'm in love with your approach of having dialogue with different people. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So tell me, what does dialogue mean to you?
Basically, in simple terms, it might be understanding each other in very simple terms, and then maybe sharing our concerns to each other.
Okay, so this is interesting. And I've seen a number of your films, short films. I really love your approach of short snippets. I think most of them in the Pershikar sequence of videos are more than 10 minutes, probably average 7 to 10 minutes. So what was your reason for creating this series of dialogues and keeping them so short?
They have evolved into the stories because of some reason. I've been making documentaries since 2006, and those are all related with various issues related with social transformation broadly. And I have worked with education and environment and all those things. And those are all the long duration documentaries, 1 hour, 1.5 hour, like that. And when I started dealing with Pershikar, knowing Pershikar, who is a great thinker based in Maharashtra, and he has written extensively about almost all the issues existing in the world, really, truly. So I did not know how to deal with this such a huge work, and uh, uh, the some experiments which I did with, can I speak it out in this language, that language? Those all started become very wordy, and they started becoming very boring. So I it occurred to me that some totally different language has to be tried out, and then it arrived that it's better that I could tell some stories which are based on his thoughts. The stories won't refer again and again that he has said so, he has said so, but the stories will be independent and they will be woven together to make his argument complete. That's how I came to the stories.
Okay, so one thing I want to do as the first opening conversation is that I also wrote your article about your Baba.
Yeah.
So I want to cover from Baba to Parshikar, your journey. And what were your influences? How did it shape your curiosity, your beliefs, and your creativity? So can you give me a little quick overview of
Yeah.
journey from Baba to Parshikar?
Sure. If at all I have to attribute whatever I've been doing to somebody, then it would be Rashtra Sevadal, as a, that organization which nurtured many people, their thoughts, and my father was part of the whole ecosystem of Rashtra Sevadal and the socialist movement. And as a part of that, many people used to come to my home. I used to go to so many, shibirs and Rasta Roko and many agitation, social movement initiatives. So as a child, I grew up with all those people, and Vasant Pashikar was among one of them. And he used to come to our home and be with us for a long time. And so at that time, I couldn't know who he was and what he was doing actually. And many a times I asked him, "What exactly you do?" He used to just smile. And when I grew up and started making documentaries, then I happened to read his articles, and then I collected all his writings, almost all his writings. So they were around 650 articles written by him, all long ones, 40 pages, 50 pages, like that, elaborate ones. And then I thought something has to be done with this content. And so coming back to your question, that my father, who was an extrovert person, passionate person, who wanted to see some beautiful society someday in his lifetime. He passed away very early when he was 50, but he made friends with many people, elder people, people of his age, younger age, and he was connected with many movements and people. So as a child, I saw all that and I experienced all that. And people like not only Vasant Pashikar, he was one of them, but others also, who are active in social transformation through Rashtra Sevadal and that whole family. They have been inspiring me since then. Now I have my critique over the socialist thought. I don't consider it as a all-encompassing thought. It is incomplete in a sense. That's what I feel now. But I want to give full credit of my nourishment as a child to these people, and that's where Vasant Pashikar comes in a very big way for me.
Well, I think one of the things, I also grew up in the socialist family in Rashtra Sevadal. Probably the people that influenced your thinking influenced mine too. And I'm not surprised that you have a critical view of socialist ideology or movement, that the flow it has taken. Because I think one of the basic values we have learned from our grooming in this moment is critical thinking.
Yes, yes.
We were
Yes,
not
true.
indoctrinated in one ideology.
True, very
Many
true.
of my
Very true.
friends of our generation who have benefited from these ideas, the first thing is that we don't take anybody or anybody's words as final, and we were
Yes,
encouraged to question.
yes, very
And
true.
I think even for our audience, who's going to be the younger generation, 3 generations from now, I think that's the
Yes,
central message, that one difference, the ideologies that you and I have taken a legacy of,
yes,
is an ideology of curiosity, compassion, and critical thinking.
definitely,
So where
definitely.
it
I
takes you,
totally
you
agree with
never
you.
know. We are not
Yes, yes.
we are not celebrating the glory of ancient times or of
Yes.
a ideology that is stuck in time,
Yeah,
but we are celebrating the diversity of ideas,
yes,
diversity of cultures, and diversity of possibilities for the future.
definitely. Yeah.
So before I go into my next question, I have one small question again for our audience. I recognize that you were influenced by many people, but reading this vast literature that was created by Vasant Parshikar, your creativity was triggered by that literature. You had to do something with it. I think
Yeah.
you needed to synthesize it and turn it into bite-sized consumable artifacts. I cannot imagine while watching those videos that Parshikar could have made those videos or those messages, because they're simple. So two things I want you to do, give me in your answer. One is, if you were to describe who Vasant Parshikar was to a 15-year-old child 50 years from now, how would you describe him?
Mm.
And number two, what is the target and message of your series of videos? So who's the target and what is the message?
Target was actually anybody. Like I take this film many places and we conduct shows. So mainly these films were received by university professors, like sociology professors, the teachers, and they understand and appreciate these films very well. The people from political science, and on the other side of the spectrum, very interestingly, these films are screened into Zopadbastis, where young activists would see these films and react to that, and they will have such a fierce dialogue after watching these series of videos, and each of the films will trigger their memories, their experiences, and their outlook towards the world, and they will speak out their mind very well. So, as anticipated, this would cater to many people. The only thing is the series of the films, I wanted that to be self-driven. It seems that one has to be there to conduct those films. That is the limitation which I discovered late after making the film. That many people don't can't connect the two videos. But then if somebody is there to connect it and have a dialogue, continuous dialogue, then anybody can watch it. So the second answer to your question is, the audience is actually anybody. That's why the stories were made. So that is one thing. The question one is very it has to be well thought about. Vasant Parshikar, I can say to a 15-year-old, is a person who selflessly thought about the society holistically, which means that he considered all facets of life while he thought over it, thought over them, and wrote over them. So he didn't fragment the various subjects. See, knowledge is having a unified structure, and for our sake of our convenience, we break that into economics and sociology and language and whatnot. But then we go into one specialized field and forget the holistic picture. That's what precisely Vasant Pashikar avoids, and he thinks holistically. He connects all the fields to one another, and he tries to give a reader a full picture of what is happening. And while doing that, he took one care that the opponent's point of view has also to be mentioned in the same article, in the same thought, in the same breath. Normally, it happens that we advocate our point of view, but the opponent's point of view is hidden, and his valid points are also not recognized. This is what Persiker contrasts to everybody else. He, in fact, considers their point of view and then counters them. So as a reader, I grow up. I grow while reading his article. That I know this side, I know that side, and then I know Vasant Pershikar's critique on everything.
That's great. So, would you compare him, like his mindset, his curiosity, his way of thinking, to any of the well-known authors in the global scale who have similar kind of mindset and critical thinking, and essentially who's generated a vast amount of literature that you would compare to Pershikar's?
Unfortunately, I won't be able to answer this question because I don't think I'm exposed enough to know his contemporaries or know his like-minded people who have done such a extensive work outside India.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You were saying something.
No, to certain extent, there are few people who resonate with his viewpoint.
Mhm.
One is referred as, again, I haven't read it fully, but after talking to him, after talking to others, Ashish Nandi is the one who is in but again, in some aspects he resonates with him, but in Pershikar is that way unpredictable. What I mean to say is, a person like him, born in such and such 1936, one would love to predict that he would behave or think in one particular way. But then Vasant Pershikar will break those barriers. Like when he writes about man-woman relationship and the sexuality and the love, then he was much beyond his contemporaries, and that's why he was not liked by many, because his views were not acceptable in those times.
And why is that so? Why were they not acceptable?
Because he was very open in thinking. Actually, whenever I used to talk to him, he always urged me that I am putting different frameworks for my thinking itself, and I'm not thinking freely. And he would tell me again and again that if you try to ever break these shackles in your thoughts, then probably you'll see something different. And he exercised that thing, that when he thought over, he would not put any restriction to his thoughts. He would go with the flow. He will go on and on.
So I'm going to ask you a very interesting question. I don't know whether it's philosophical, but you will understand after I heard how you described Pershikar. Now, you and I grew up in socialist, social reforms, kind of a community. Then there is another community that is ideologically opposite, which is Hindutvavadi, RSS, Jansangh philosophy. And I don't want to condemn them. I want to just say that it's an alternate view that has always existed as we were growing up.
Yeah.
And when I think back today, growing up with my parents, I also feel that I personally felt a certain amount of inhibition to step out of a certain ideological framework that was given to me by Rashtra Seva Dal, socialist movement, social reforms movement, and so on. For example, I hesitated to even learn why people who believe in God, why do they believe in God? Oh, yeah. Or I was hesitant to even consider that people with RSS background could be good people or nice people, or they have their point of view and why.
Yes.
And as I moved through life, especially once I moved away from India, I studied psychology, anthropology, sociology, I began to learn Why Do People Behave the Way They Do, your wife's book. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And I began to get curious about why people think or behave in the way they do.
Yes.
So, my question now to you is this transition that happened way late in my life, I would say, even like after I was 40 and more. And when I look back, I feel I still remain true to the basic foundational values that were inculcated in me by this humanist, egalitarian ethos
Yeah.
of our
Yeah.
legacy. But I was afraid to step out of it for all these years. What
Yes.
would you say to our audience, the younger generation who don't have to wait till age 40 to even
Yes.
step out of their comfort zone, their belief systems, or what they have been indoctrinated into?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I won't. I'll restrict myself from making a very claiming statement.
Hmm.
But then, two things certainly I would like to mention here, that the progressive movement missed a bus on one
Hmm.
front. Uh, there was an eminent line put forth by Sane Guruji and Ram Manohar Lohia, which considered Indian ethos, Indian culture, religion in a very positive and constructive way. And the progressive movement, I don't know whether we can call it a haste or eagerness to throw away all the baggage. They threw some very important things as well, and that created some void into intellectual world, and that was filled by uh, ugly religious political discourses later. That's what I would say. So we had an opportunity, we had people, we had those concepts already written down and practiced, and people like Sane Guruji were there all over India, and that we missed that line. That is one thing. So I don't know whether this is in line with your question,
Yes,
but
yes. The only thing is, so would you actually tell the younger generation from here onwards that challenge your own beliefs also?
yes. So I'll then okay, this is a very complex subject, I would say, the religion. On one side, let me put my dilemma in front of you, or both the aspects which I'm always struggling to understand this. That on one side, religion is a powerful source of human existence, and it is a binding agent. It brings people together. That is a fact. And this is not about Hinduism alone. All over the world, religion has helped people to come together and exercise the principle of compassion, empathy, and similar things. On the other hand, at the same time, at the advent of religion itself, pollution into the religion has started probably, and it has been politicized since very beginning. And when people started getting together and started fighting with each other in the name of religion, that time itself it was corrupted, and that corrupted form of religion is what we see today in India and elsewhere also. So the dilemma or the two facets of religion is, on one hand it is very essential and it has a creative power, it is a binding agent, and on the other side it is, religion itself act as a cruel agent and divides people between us and them very easily. And this is how one has to look at religion critically. Both these aspects coexist.
So I'm going to ask you now, I'm going to ask you a question, and then I don't want you to get into the current situation, but they treat
Right.
it at a more like an intellectual level. So
Okay.
do you think there can be a critical exchange of thinking and dialogue between Hindus and Muslims or Jewish and Palestinian people?
I think it has to be really done because, uh, yes, I totally agree with you. It can be done. It has to be done because many religions have many promises, as I said, and those haven't been explored actually. Take example of Hinduism itself. There are the principles which have been put forth by today's religious powers uh, are competitive in nature, are dividing in nature. But then the by the nature of very I mean the Hinduism has some good promises of loving each other and treating all the humans and the nature together as one entity. So those facets haven't been explored enough. So yes, people have to sit together and discuss things out. And religions like Islam have been totally blackened out, boycotted, or they are being looked at in a very black and white manner. So even that might have some possibilities which have to be explored and brought to the front.
So I'm just going to give you a hypothetical situation. Imagine you brought in two fiercely opposing groups of people together for a dialogue. And you can imagine in your imagination, you can think of the two examples I gave you, Hindu Muslim or India Pakistan or Israel and Palestine or Hamas. They're together in a conversation. What kind of rules would you set for the dialogue?
Precisely on this subject, I have made one of the films of Piker, the Chotya Meeting Chi Mothi Gosht. Small story of a big happening.
And that's actually my opening sequence for this video.
Okay, okay. So the story goes like this: that uh, the gods of all religions were, bothered with quarrels what their disciples were having on the earth, and they were not able to have a good sleep. And so one fine day, they put forth one condition to all their disciples, all the people on the earth, that before they fight with each other, any argument with each other, one person has to study another religion completely. Then only he can talk about his or her religion. That was the small condition put forth, and it was a thing given by God. So everybody got busy on earth, and they kept working on it, and then the gods got a good sleep because that task was never completed. So this is
Okay.
so this is the approach practiced by Vasant Parshikar,
I get
that
it.
before he starts any argument, description of any issue he would start with, he would put forth the opponent's point of view also equally respectably, and then he will build his argument beyond it.
That's wonderful. So I want to now go back to your journey. You were trained as an engineer, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And from
I'm
our
an
last conversation, uh, when I asked you, how did you keep changing tracks? You said you didn't change, you kept adding new
Yes.
knowledge and new curiosity to who you are.
Yes.
So, can you just tell me this journey of the evolution of your identity and your curiosity over time? Where
Yes.
were you and where are you now?
Yes. Okay. Thanks for asking me this question. I see a continuum between all these phases. These are just different lenses through which I'm probably exploring my own life through. And the fulcrum is the same, that my wish to get engaged with the efforts of social transformation, which I've been carrying since my childhood. So while studying engineering also, my mind was uh, looking for chances to use technology for the betterment of society. And Dr. Kalbag, Srinath Kalbag, was the one who demonstrated a very strong experiment called Vigyan Ashram in Pabol, which is nearby Pune, where he would use a technology for the betterment of rural people. And that's a big story. I've made my first film on that only. Rural development through education. That's what the film is. So Dr. Kalbag's endeavor was to learn technology, learn from the higher technology and use it for the day-to-day problem solving. And so after completing my engineering, I went to Vigyan Ashram and stayed there for for 2 years. And Dr. Kalbag told me that if at all I have to do something about technology, then technology has to be learned by going into the manufacturing industry. Just by learning the books, they are not enough. So I agreed with that, and I went to the manufacturing industry. But then I discovered very soon there that that was not my call. Actually, that was not my life. I was not fully. I did that work very sincerely, very genuinely. But then I was not able to laugh in engineering. I was not able to cry in engineering. I used to say, so that time I was fond of still photography. And while I was doing still photography, I always started feeling that I need to add some words to these photos. The photos are not able to describe my emotions properly. So when I left my manufacturing job totally, and Anjali, my wife, was working in the US, I went with her for 2 years in the US. There I learned video editing. I learned how to shoot and how to make small films there. And then I discovered something. I discovered something. The language was in added to the still photograph, and then music was added, and concepts were added, and then they resulted into some kind of a film. And I thought that yes, now this is something which is closer to what I want to say, probably, where I could express myself, my concerns. And my concerns were, of course, again, the social transformation related issues. So again, to get trained into the audiovisual medium, I work with Sumitra Bhavi and Sundil Suktankar. I assisted them in two of their movies, and I worked with Atul Pete as well for some project. And there was a documentary made by him and Makarand Sati on Vijay Tendulkar and Himsa, Tendulkar and violence, the way Tendulkar looked at violence. So all those things I did, and then I discovered that documentary making was very close to my heart, where I could say exactly what I want to say, because movies were giving, they give a broader picture, they are open ended, and but I found that making a documentary would be closer to what I say, and that's why I got engaged into the documentary making. Interestingly, towards the end of the my documentary making effort, the last film was the Pershikar film which I made, and towards that end, I started getting some different feelings. Like, my films would end with some kind of a utopia, where I would urge people to build systems considering Antodaya. The systems will be built considering the last needy person in the society. And then the film would appeal that, let's all come together and build such a society, build such a structure which will cater to all the needs of everybody and all those things. And while I said so, I started feeling that, okay, I'm saying so, but this is not happening. I'm not seeing this happen anywhere. People are not coming together. As a metaphor, I used a metaphor in the Pershikar film, that people used to come together and sit in circles, and they would share things among themselves, sitting in circles. And unless a unanimous decision was made, nobody would have even water or something to eat. That's how that much cohesive they were there. That's a fictional construction, but in reality, people are not coming together. They are not sitting in circles. They are not sharing things. In fact, if you look at today's world, they prefer to be with the smallest faction, and they would say that this is my samaj, this is my society. They don't refer to the samaj as a whole samaj anymore. They refer to their caste as their own society, amsa samaj, what they call. So these are the realities which I stopped overlooking. I wanted to take cognizance of these realities as well. Then I started building a hypothesis in my mind that while pursuing the utopia, I should not forget that there is dystopia in the way. So I stopped glorifying my efforts. I stopped glorifying my visuals, that one day the human beings will come together. Then I started believing that this may not happen ever. One fine day, all people will come together, and they will create a beautiful structure, beautiful flower, and everybody will be happy later and on. So then I started seeing world differently. And then my quest to understand human mind, why the humans behave this way, that started. Because when I was a child, I grew up seeing Iraq and Iran war for almost 8 years. And that time I used to wonder, how come in 20th century two nations can fight with each other? So in 21st century, we are witnessing the Ukraine war, and beyond that, we are now what we are witnessing today in Gaza and Israel is not less than any dystopia. And these are our own people, our contemporaries, and we thought them as good people. We thought Jews were the sufferers, and they would be loving others in future. And so whatever is happening now, what does it tell us? So it tells me that I should stop glorifying human beings. Human civilizations are yet to learn many things. They preach some principles, but they don't act on them. And it doesn't mean that I consider all the humans as cruel, ugly, not that. What I see is it's not like that some people are good and some people are bad. That binary thinking is not useful. How the way I see it is, we all have good, bad, ugly things in us. There is a evil in us, and there is a altruistic person in us, and we manifest ourselves in different situations differently, and they will coexist. So now the way I look at it is, while considering the efforts towards the social transformation, towards the larger social good, uh, we would definitely pursue a utopia. But while doing so, by design, we'll consider that vulnerabilities of human beings, the fault lines in their behavior, and the cruel manifestations of theirs, those have to be considered as a part of the design itself. Because we see that colleagues in even in social movements, they hate each other, they are also jealous of each other, as they are helpful to each other, as they love each other. So this part of our own existence we had been denying for a very long time. So I want to consider them all together, and in whatever efforts I take further, I would consider these all facts in one go.
So I remember from our earlier conversation, so you decided to become a psychologist. So did that decision have anything to do with this realization?
Yes, it has. It is totally yes. Because the realization which I started to have, uh, uh, I started reading something about psychology, about the human mind and all. But then later I discovered that these efforts were piecemeal, half-hearted. There was no end to it, as to and so rather than doing that, I thought that I should study that subject systematically, and that's how I thought that I should be having a formal structure. And then I did my MA in psychology. And then I got to know about personality theories and the clinical psychology, the social psychology. And yes, then I was really happy that probably I'm getting what I was aspiring for. And here are some of the answers of the human existence, human civilizations. And probably I'm going to get some new insights through these studies.
So
Yes,
this,
so yes, it was
so
very much connected.
what are you doing? How are you using your uh, uh, education in psychology now?
Currently, I am doing two, three things together. I'm into practice of the counseling, which I do on normal basis. And so I talk to different people, except the school-going children. I talk to youngsters, couples, people who are working in the industry, and even the elders. So I get to see the whole spectrum of their mind, and that's very fascinating. One friend of mine said that she was jealous of me because for a storyteller, people are coming and opening their whole spectrum in front of a storyteller. So what else a storyteller would want? So all those things I'm learning newly, and the way people think, the way people, they're stuck into their problems, and the way they come out of their problems suddenly, the impulsiveness, the passion, and so many things manifesting themselves in their daily lives. That I'm seeing as a part of my practice. And I'm also trying to engage with some research projects now, which are related with some personality traits, which are some personality disorders, which are rampantly available in the society, but they are affecting each other, they are affecting the families. But somehow, people, a lay person, doesn't know that such and such thing exists. So whether I am endeavoring whether I can come out with some project with some finding, research finding, whereby I can put forth, prove some hypothesis about some personality disorders. And thirdly, I am studying sexuality. Uh, Sexuality, by sexuality, I mean the whole LGBTQ spectrum, the sexual orientation on one part, and sex in itself on the other part. Like, what is sex? What is gender? And there are so many misconceptions even at this age, when people believe that there are so many videos available on YouTube as to what is done in actual sexual act. But despite all those videos being available, people are not into healthy mindset. They don't talk to each other, they don't get scientific knowledge, they don't get to share the healthy insights, and they are still into their dilemmas, fears, and misunderstandings, superstitions, and whatnot. So understanding sex and sexuality, and probably again conducting some kind of a research on human sexual behavior, the way Alfred Kinsey worked in USA on a very vast project. Like, he studied human sexual behavior for 20 years, and he came out with two big volumes of human sexual behavior in males and human sexual behavior in females, almost 800, 900 pages of each volume. So those findings are thing which are very useful throughout the world, and based on that data only, the whole experiences all over the world have been built. And we Indians, we lack that kind of authentic scientific data as to what exactly we people do, what we think about it, and what exactly we do in our daily lives. That is not known to us actually. So these are the areas which I want to probably explore in my near future.
So I have an interesting question. You were influenced by very broad thinkers, Sane Guruji, Baba Amte, Narendra Dabholkar, Palshikar, all of these people who thought about the society, who thought about the individual. And through your journey, you have arrived at curiosity about sexuality. Is there a connection between reforming the society and reforming mindsets about sexuality in individual men and women? Is there a connection?
Yes, there is a connection, because I can't forget Rado Karve, who was, working right here with his full might, and he considered that as a essential component of human existence, the sex. And he strived for that. He was abused by society. There were many lawsuits he had to go through, and he suffered throughout his life. But then he kept on saying that sex and sexuality are essential component of the holistic human existence. And many of the other thinkers or the activists, somehow they consider this topic as either secondary, or they thought of it as something which has to be done later, that later never comes. Look at the debate between uh, Gandhi and Rado Karve himself. Like, they don't didn't debate directly with each other, but then Rado Karve had a very strong argument against Gandhi. Gandhi's greatness was that he opened himself fully. He was one of the rarest persons who expressed himself in terms of sex and sexuality. None of the other world leaders have done that. Nobody has that courage. Not the Indian leaders, not the outside people also. Very few people have done that. But then that's how he made himself as a subject, to study for others, and for which Rado Karve had a very strong argument against Gandhi's Sexuality. But this has to come into the public forum, which both of these great personalities have done. So the answer to your question is, even I consider sex and sexuality as essential and normal part of the human existence. It has not to be glorified. It is not something which has to be, given a very special attention. As some research is done in case of heart, in case of cancer, in case of human development, spirituality. At the same time, in the same manner, human sexuality also has to be studied and given due respect to that field of knowledge.
So I'm going to give you an exercise in imagination.
Okay.
Imagine you are addressing a Rashtra Sevadal Shibir.
Okay.
Huh? And the topic is sexuality.
Okay.
How would you introduce the topic to the audience?
Okay. Okay. As I know, there are many youngsters who are there in Rashtra Sevadal now, and it's little easier for me to address them and open the topic, because in a way the topic of sexuality can be opened little easily now. So normally, even today, I conduct workshops for men about sex and sexuality, and I talk to them in a scientific language, and as a beginning I tell them the whole spectrum of sexual researchers all over the world, including the Indian researchers, including Watson and other people.
So can I interrupt once, please?
Yes.
I want you to actually enact your speech to the audience. I don't want you to explain. Imagine.
I don't know.
This is a good creative. You are a creative
I know.
guy.
I know.
So I want you. I'm putting you in front of Rashtra Sevadal Sainiks. And how would you explain
Okay.
your opening introduction?
Okay, this is a very difficult task that you have given me, because I would go there with little preparation, and now which I'm not prepared right now. But then, so I can't enact. That will be really funny.
Okay,
But then,
that's fine. Let's make bullet points. What are the
bullet
topics you
points.
would want to cover?
Yeah, basically, so this is a essential part of our life that has to be looked at with full dignity. Then there are people who have worked extensively on this in India and outside, uh, and all that literature is available even in India. Our contemporaries, Dr. Vittal Prabhu, Dr. Leena Mohadikar, Dr. Shashank Samak, Dr. Mahinder Vats are the contemporaries who are there with us even now, or some of them have passed very recently. And in earlier times, there are beautiful, books written by many researchers even in India, and people outside India have referred the Indian literature. So they have been talking to each other. So there is a network of people who were talking to each other, and they have created this knowledge together. Even though they were spread across centuries. So we have to consider all these people together, right from Vatsayana to today's Albert Ellis, who has also taken this topic very seriously as a central topic of human existence. So basically, the existence of all these people, approaches and thoughts, and the books and whatnot, that is one thing. And then contemporary realities, like what kind of a society we are living in. And there are youth who are confused, who are bombarded with sexual imagery, which is not necessarily healthy. They are, the images are driven by market forces. They are creating more confusion, anxiety, depression, and doubts about oneself. The youngsters to whom I talk, they are totally confused. So it's not that today's open atmosphere, so to say, about sex and sexuality is really helping them in a healthy way. There are many couples, not many couples, but at least there are few couples who, even after their marriage, after 6 months, 2 years, 4 years, 7 years, they're not able to have their first intercourse. This is the reality, you know. So this is today's realities, and people are suffering, and they're not able to talk to each other. They're not able to talk to any other person. So this topic has to be discussed in a scientific way. At least these 2 points I'll put forth in front of them.
This is fantastic. So I want to ask last two questions. One is, amongst all the films that you have made, everything, including Piker and others, which is your most favorite film?
No. I can't answer this question in singular way. Different films are important for me in a very different way. The film called Karyarat, which is a life study of one teacher and social activist, again Rashtra Sevadal Sainik, called Divakar Haridas. My camera has just followed him throughout the day and whatever he does, and that film is without any narration, without any explanation, without any comment on him. It is standing on its own. That's a wonderful film which I have made. I loved that film. The first film, Vigyan Ashram, that has brought the principle of equality with the help of and social justice with the help of technology, and that is helping the rural people. The whole education that it is able helping to build a argument in equitable education. So that film is very important. One interview by Dr. Anil Sadgopal, which is explaining the whole philosophy of how work and education can be bring together. The third film which I made on education, Moolagami, which was a case study of Srujan Anand Vidyalay based in Kolhapur, which was initiated by Leelatai Patil. So that's a wonderful film where the passion and energy of teachers and children, and just watch that film, you will be seeing the film full of energy, the energy which is, you can witness that energy through each and every activity what they are doing, and they are doing a cohesive work, integral work, holistic work. So all these three films put together, they are generating one argument in education, that education has to be life centric. It can't be book centric. Books are there to help to understand the experiences. So that's how these three films together, they are lovable for me. And of course there are Gopra Pradhan's films, like Pradhan Vichar Pradhan Charitra, which we made. He himself is talking about his own life and ideology. And again, owing to the Rashtra Sevadal approach, he's critiquing his own ideology. He's putting forth the strength of socialist ideology. At the same time, in the same breath, he's talking about the limitations of his ideology as well. None of the other ideology persons I haven't seen doing such kind of a thing.
And all these videos are available on your channel on YouTube, correct?
Yes. There is a channel called Avkash Nirmiti Documentaries, which is having all these films. And then comes Arvind Gupta's interview, Shobhati Bhagwat's Bal Bhavan films, and there are various films which have been made. There is a Marathi translation of one English project, Story of Stuff, which was suggested to me by Arvind Gupta, and that's a wonderful series of film which have been dubbed into Marathi. So, yeah. So I would say that all films together make one film for me.
Okay, wonderful.
So,
I get it. So now, I lied. I have two more questions. So one is, I want you to imagine 50 years from now, when both you and I won't be there. And at that time, if I look back at your life, or not I, but somebody, a life that you have lived to fullest, you've done everything you wanted to do. And I really wish that you will lead that kind of a life. I clearly see the signs that you know how to follow your curiosity with openness and courage. So if somebody had to read your obituary, what would it read like?
one important point they would include in their obituary is this fellow had got a very beautiful and meaningful partner, and because of whose help this fellow could do something, and they did it together. So my partner, wife Anjali Chipalkatti, and me, we have done all these things together, and we complement each other. We at times fight with each other, but then this all work has been done together, and by helping each other, and probably that point would be noticed by the person who is sitting 50 years next down the line.
And what impact has this person had? on the world?
Who?
You, in your obituary, what impact have you had?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to go into that. Okay, one fine thing which I picked up from your own dialogue series is matching with my way of thinking today. Is I've stopped thinking in terms of end products. There is no end product. There is no achievement. What is important is the process, and the world is not going to be beautiful any day. It's a constant negotiation between what is to be achieved and what is not existing today.
And
So
and why did this project trigger that thought in you?
no, actually no. There was an element in my manufacturing industry itself. In telco, I was there for a long time. So there, the new process has started when I was there. Uh, it was shifting from product orientation to process orientation. Once upon a time in manufacturing industry, quality control meant that you produce something and then you keep on checking the products, and the bad products will be thrown away and the good products will be selected as good. But that created a whole lot of waste, and that thinking itself was faulty. So what people started then is to monitor the process and control the process itself, and by that virtue they will do small correction right then and there, and they will avoid the further mistakes and the huge wastage at the end of the process. So that concept was there in my mind all the time, and that was a philosophical concept. It was not just the manufacturing industry concept. And today I'm discovering that okay, utopia is not going to be achieved any day. Suppose today's politicians, the way they are putting for their concept of nationalism, suppose they achieved some political state, time is not going to end there. Time is going to exist even after that, and other people are going to try their level best to bring about their ideology into practice. So what I see life as is constant effort to negotiate between what I want and what is not existing, and so that is keeping me active.
Okay.
So rather than any product, a process itself has become important.
This is great. And my last question, I know you were expecting me to ask the same question I asked everybody else, but I'm going to ask you a different question. I want you to picture somebody who you are fiercely opposed to ideologically, somebody who you believe is today taking India on a different path that you don't necessarily agree with. And if you're talking to that person, what would you say to that person?
Okay, this is the project I'm literally going to undertake. So thanks for igniting my imagination.
Yeah, because you're sitting in a circle with that group of people. So what are you going to
Yes,
say?
very much, very much, very much. So yeah, so it can be a genuine dialogue. I look forward to have a genuine dialogue. Again, Vasant Parshikar would be of a great help here. His approach, I mean, that once if I approach such a person, I'll first say that I see some valid points in what you say. While by and large, I don't agree with you. I want to debate with you, but I see essence in some of your points. I want to have a dialogue. I would say to him or her that remember, once upon a time we were having tea together. We had chai together. We went on trips together. We chatted together. We had food together. We fought together on different issues, and we had deep connection between ourselves. Now that we are so much fighting with each other and not able to look into each other's eyes, it's necessary that we initiate a new dialogue. So let me admit that I was not able to understand few of your points. So this is the first acknowledgement I want to have, that you have some valid points in your this thing. Then of course I'll communicate to him or her what were those points, like on which I differed initially. I did some mistakes that I'll try to admit first, and then that the dialogue will be initiated. And my whole point will be that there will be coexistence of ideologies. None of the ideologies will be having a ultimate win, final win. So let's understand each other and let's have some common points. And then I would urge that person uh, to that he or she has landed up in such a situation that he and she are supporting absolutely non-negotiable inhuman things today, and that is not doable. So I'll be very firm on those points, that a young girl, a small child girl, has been raped for 8 months, 8 days or whatever, and there are people out there to justify that act, and you are the person who is not fiercely opposing that act, and other rapists are being garlanded by others, the people of your ideology, and you are just keeping quiet and sitting tight. So this is not done. This is beyond humanity. So I would urge that person to rethink about this, at least these clear cut incidents where there can't be any debate on this.
This is wonderful. I think this is a beautiful way of ending our conversation. I remember when we had our first conversation, you were not sure what our conversation was going to be like.
Yes.
Looking back, what does it feel like?
Yeah, actually, I'm discovering myself, describing myself in psychological terms now. I have perfectionist traits in me. So when you initiated, when you first contacted me that whether we can have a dialogue, the whole chain of thoughts started in my mind. Okay, if at all I have to talk, then it has to be perfect, it has to be good, it has to be meaningful, it has to be contentful, the message has to go across, people have to watch it, people have to appreciate it, and I have to be satisfied about it. And then thanks to you that you calmed me down, and you treated those perfectionist traits in a very nice way, and you told me that this is not going to be about some product or selling some idea or some achievements, but it is going to be a genuine, true, simple dialogue. And that's where I thought that yes, then I can speak out my mind, and then here I am there, truly surrender to you. And that's why I called you. You are a good psychologist.
So did it feel okay? Did last 1 hour feel okay?
Yes, I think I am happy, feeling happy.
Wonderful. So thank you very
Yes.
much. I will work on it. You don't have to worry about sending me any files now. I will work with
Okay.
what I have. I've actually
Sure.
already placed some pieces in the front and back. And when
Sure.
you wake up tomorrow, you will see an edited video.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It
Thank
was
you very
really
much.
fun talking to you.
It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye.
अभिमन्यूला प्रश्न पडत आहेत. तसेच पण थोडे वेगळे प्रश्न मलाही पडत आहेत. काही प्रश्न एकूणच माणसाच्या जगण्याबाबतचे आणि काही प्रश्न आपल्या समाजाबाबतचे. म्हणजे असं की मानवजात खरंच पुढं चालली आहे का मागं चालली आहे, कुठं चालली आहे? माणूस हा काय प्राणी आहे? तो बुद्धिमान आहे का बिंडोक आहे? स्वार्थी आहे का परोपकारी आहे? तो संपूर्ण सृष्टीची काळजी घेईल की तिचा विनाश करेल? आज माणसानं स्वतःला केंद्रस्थानी ठेवून सर्व रचना केलेल्या आहेत. झाडं, नद्या, पशु, पक्षी हे सर्व आपल्याकरता निर्माण झालेत असं माणसाला वाटतं. कोणत्याही मार्गाने सुख मिळवण्याचा मला हक्कच आहे असंही माणसाला वाटतं. हे बरोबर आहे का चूक आहे? सुख म्हणजे नक्की काय? सुख पूर्णतः मिळालं असं कधी होतं? तंत्रज्ञानाचा वापर केल्यामुळे समाजातले प्रश्न सुटतील, समाज सुखी होईल, ही समजूत किती खरी आहे? वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोन. आपण असं मानतो की वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोन महत्वाचा आहे, पण केवळ वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोनामुळे प्रश्न सुटतील का? करुणा, सहवेदना ही मूल्य देखील तितकीच महत्वाची आहेत का? समृद्ध समाजाचं स्वप्न. आपण सगळेजण समृद्ध समाजाचं स्वप्न बघतो. काहींना असं वाटतं की आधी समृद्धी येऊ तर देत, तिचं न्याय्य वाटप वगैरे नंतर बघता येईल. पण समृद्धी आल्यानंतर न्याय्य वाटप आपोआप होईल का? का वाटपाची सवय आपण आधीपासूनच लावून घेतली पाहिजे? एकूणच धर्म, तंत्रज्ञान, औद्योगिकरण, नीतिमत्ता, लोकशाही, राष्ट्रवाद या सर्व गोष्टींबद्दल आपण पुन्हा नव्यानं विचार करू शकू का? त्यांची चिकित्सा करू शकू का? जुने चष्मे काढून संपूर्ण वेगळा, मोकळा विचार करू शकू का? भारतात विविध जातींचे, विविध धर्मांचे, विविध भाषांचे लोक, विविध विचारांचे लोक एकत्र राहतात. वेगवेगळ्या विचाराच्या लोकांनी एकत्र कसं जगायचं हे सांगण्याची क्षमता खरं तर आपल्याकडे असली पाहिजे. अशी क्षमता अंगी यावी म्हणून आपण काही प्रयत्न करणार का? आपणही संकुचित राष्ट्रवादाच्या चौकटीत अडकत राहणार? भारतातलं सगळंच टाकाऊ आहे किंवा भारतातलं सगळं श्रेष्ठच आहे, अशा दोन टोकाच्या भूमिका न घेता या दोन्हींमधलं तथ्य शोधण्याचा प्रयत्न आपण करणार का? या सर्व प्रश्नांची उत्तरं हुडकण्याकरता आपण धाडसानं पुढे झालो तर ते आपल्या देशाला आणि जगाला सगळ्यांनाच उपयोगी ठरणार आहे.